A house becomes haunted only when it is painted with a bloody history. The curse will only attach itself to it if it has signs of vile aggression and brutality engraved on its walls, which cannot be erased away that easily. The unspeakable pain that accompanies it can't be caused by a simple death, murder, or a suicide. This trapped pain, which eagerly waits for its freedom for ages, might scare away a few, but occasionally it tries to convey something. But what is it? Having these thoughts in my head, I strolled with a bunch of paper in my hands towards the cab station in front of the William Castle, in anguish. I had never had such a frustrating experience living in a haunted place before. Anyways, as I got inside the cab, I gazed towards the sunlit castle for the last time as I lost its sight behind me in the distance. I wish I could have stayed there for a few more days, but unfortunately, I had no more time left to spend. So here I am, bidding all the entities I had lived with yesterday a goodbye. I turned my face away from the window to perceive the familiar sight of John driving me back home. Coincidentally, he was the one who came to drop me off yesterday here in front of this same castle, greeting me with the same old, "This is the haunted house, sir," with the usual smile on his face. Noticing my thoughtful expression through the front mirror, he asked me, "So, did you by any chance meet any ghosts there?" I smiled and replied, "I don't know whether what I saw was a spirit or not, but certainly I felt a presence there." "Huh, and you are still alive?" "Want to check me in the mirror once?" He ignored the sarcasm, diverting his concentration towards the road. He continued, "So, if you are not entirely sure whether you saw anything, how are you so certain about any presence there?" "If you want to know, then I'll have to tell you the entire story." "So, what's stopping you? I mean, the journey is long and the radio is not functioning properly, so you might as well." Understanding his cue, I reluctantly started. I felt that this spirit didn't really want to haunt me, but instead wanted to tell me something. I got the name of this castle from the internet, and its blood drenched history instantly lured me towards it. In this very castle, a woman named Elizabeth had committed a suicide on the second floor after reportedly murdering her husband in the same house. The police were unable to discover the reason behind either the murder or the suicide, even after thorough investigation. Everyone had their own theories about what must have happened here, but I disregarded all of them as mere rumors. Moreover, after these mishaps, the house was put on sale, and people who came here to stay had often reported something strange that they felt while visiting this house, which is why it is abandoned since then. And as you know about my interest in these things, I straightaway found out a way to contact the caretaker of this place. And as it seemed, he too was in need of some money. So it didn't take me too much efforts to convince him to let me spend a night in this haunted castle. So, yesterday in that heavy rain, when I got off the cab and I walked towards the old shaky building, I was getting an eerie vibe from it. This, peculiarly enough, was sufficient to make me excited in the anticipation of what's in there. But all of this excitement vanished as soon as I opened the main door to the castle. As I entered the dark hallway, and when I say dark, I mean absolute darkness, with not a sign of a single ray of light piercing through, as I felt fear overcoming my sense of excitement. This fright was not of ghosts, but of the weird smell of blood covering all the corners of the hallway. After fidgeting for some time, I reached my pockets to get out the flashlights and made my way to the first floor. Dusk fell as I roamed all around taking note of all the artifacts placed in different rooms on the floor. But as I was ready to walk off towards the second floor, I noticed a switchboard with four switches on it. I turned on all the switches, but on searching, I found that this floor only had three lights, including two bulbs in adjacent rooms and one tube light in the passage. I peeked from the stairs to check whether anything got triggered on the ground floor, but all I could see was the darkness staring back at me. Anyways, keeping these thoughts on the side, I reached the second floor. This floor had a little balcony at the end of the narrow passage and a room on the wall just beside the balcony. So before going in the balcony, I decided to check the room first. As I pushed the door to open it, I recalled that this was the same room in which Elizabeth supposedly committed suicide, which made this room the only place where I could find any spirits. This room too was dark, so without getting faced by it anymore, I reached my pocket once more to take out the flashlight. But to my surprise, a bulb turned on at that very moment. This was when I felt suffocated, as if this darkness hid something from me. But as soon as the lights turned on, I felt as if history itself was opening up to me. This room didn't have much furniture on, just a bed, a bedside table, and a chair kept right in front of the table. On the wall, there was a circular patch, which felt as if some kind of painting or clock was removed from there a few years ago. I had seen this room on the internet, so I bought up all the information I gathered about this room, and leaning against the chair, I started studying them afresh. It was not more than a few hours I started feeling goosebumps, so I rose up from the chair and walked towards the undisturbed balcony. It has been hours since the rain stopped, and now the atmosphere has filled with clear moonlight entering the passage, diminishing the effect of darkness in the interiors to a great extent. I mindlessly stood there for I don't know how much time until I could feel some whispers coming from that room. This wasn't a unique thing for me, as I had felt this many times before visiting haunted places like this. But this time, strangely, I felt these whispers were directed towards me, even though I couldn't comprehend what was being actually said. All this time, I was wondering what was happening inside the room. I had my hand on the balcony sill. As soon as I turned my head to check the room, I felt someone placed a hand on mine for a fraction of a second, and I turned on to check. There was no one there. I removed my hand, and not feeling safe to be standing there, I went back to the room. As I entered the room, I felt that the intensity of the bulb had increased a bit. Getting bored, I leaned my back on the bed and I didn't even realize that I must have fallen asleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to notice something very strange. When I fell asleep, the window was above my head, but when I woke up, I could see the window was near my feet. I wondered whether the position of the bed had changed, or I might have wandered all across the bed and ended up in that position. I felt a sharp pain in my head, so I woke up to find that the bed wasn't the only thing that was not in its position, but there was a blue fountain pen kept on the table. Slowly, I picked it up, and this time I knew for a fact that there was someone other than me in this room. But this thing, whatever it was, didn't want to hurt me. But why would it turn the bed towards the window and keep a pen on the table? I lied on my bed as I was trying to figure out all the answers to the questions revolving inside my head, with my eyesight fixed on the window. As I was taking in the beauty that the night offered, a thought came to my mind that whatever this thing was, it wanted my attention to be towards the window. So I sat up and placed my head near the window. Not even a decibel of sound entered my ear. No chirping of insects and no blowing of wind. Just dead silence throughout. It felt like everything was anticipating something to happen, and to my expectations, I heard a rustling sound piercing through the dead silence as if something was coming down from above the frame of the window. As I gathered my courage to face the approaching danger, I noticed a clump of hair descending down the window. I wanted to move, but I felt that I was paralyzed in the influence of whatever was coming next. As the hair was coming down, I noticed a head introducing itself within the frame. The pale head was absolutely lifeless, with blue eyes staring down my soul and a disturbing smile piercing her blood covered lips. When the body descended enough, I noticed that her right hand was pointing towards something in the room. As soon as I turned to look back with my heart beating like a drum, to my surprise, I found nothing. So I looked back, but even the figure had vanished. Was I dreaming all this time? Questioning what I saw all this time, I tried to look up the window, but there was nothing there. As I turned my face away from the window, what I saw took my breath away. A piece of cloth that was now hanging from the ceiling had its other end wrapped around the neck of the same woman I saw at the window. Her two eyes were bulging out of her face with the same horrifying smile painted on her face. This time I closed my eyes in fright. I could feel the lights going off and the sounds that started off with a familiar whispering changed itself to crying in the span of a few seconds. As soon as I screamed, "What do you want from me?" the pen threw itself on the floor. I asked the same question again and it replied by flickering the lights on. This time, I got frustrated of the games this entity was playing with me, so I threw the pen outside the window and stomped out of the room to find a room downstairs to spend the rest of the night. I took out my sleeping pills and swallowed it to force myself to sleep. What I heard all night was a constant wail of that woman upstairs as if it wanted me to find out something. Even if I did consider waking up, my body just gave up to my desire to sleep. John, who attentively listened to the whole incident, spoke up annoyingly.
So you are telling me that the ending is still a mystery?
That is why I wanted to spend some more time in the mansion, but apparently that isn't possible. After a few minutes of hopeless silence, I noticed that I had left the research papers in my head all this time, and before inserting these sheets in the bag, I fidgeted with them for the last time, and shockingly, something caught my eye on the second last page in this whole pile of papers, which said that the husband was murdered with a pointed object, but the murder weapon couldn't be detected by the police. All thoughts inside my head started shouting out, "Ben." Mad at myself, I opened the window and threw away all the papers.
Hey, what is happening? Aren't those papers important?
No, not anymore. So that was it, guys. If you would like to listen to more horror content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel, which will in turn motivate us to bring more videos like this in the near future. Thank you.